bunch of things. I had a whole bunch of buttons that moved around to different places. It's always fun. Uh, ah, Son las 9:30. Okay, it's 9:30. We can start. Podemos empezar. Podemos empezar. Buenos días, buenos días. Feliz martes. Happy Tuesday. Feliz, happy martes. Tuesday. Feliz martes. Uh, y bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Welcome. Today we will start off, como siempre, as always, with a little bit of pronunciation practice and clarification. That'll be the first smaller part of our class. Um, we will move on to using and seeing how they are used, because the only way to really figure it out is to see a lot of examples. To see all these examples of verbs that are used, different verbs in Spanish that are used when we use only the word is, am, or are in English, okay? Because that am, perdón, am, is, are in English needs a variety of verbs in Spanish. So our step is going to be to learn the forms of those verbs and to see lots of examples of when that happens. Okay. The how is kind of important, but is more important to see lots of examples rather than trying to memorize a ton of rules. You can do that if you can keep them all straight, but seeing the examples is much more helpful. Vale, magnífico. Vamos a empezar. We're going to start. And hopefully we're going to get into some of the other big morass of other things in Spanish that will do things that sound very odd to your ear in English. Okay. A ver. Magnífico. We're going to start with an easy thing. Y bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Welcome to those who have recently chimed in. That's just fine. We're going to start with our pronunciación. Okay, and pronunciation, so I'll share our screen, and we're going to isolate from this bigger file I sent you some examples so that we can practice those examples. We're going to start to tackle that R thing a little bit today, too. So remember, recuerden. Remember, your most important job with pronunciation, truly and really, to be understood when you speak and to understand others when they speak to you, is those vowels. Truly and really, with pronunciation in Spanish, vowels are like 75% of the game. If you get them right, if you understand them when you hear them, you will understand what people are saying to you. They will understand what you are trying to say to them. So always keep these straight, right? The ah, ah. Nice wide, drop your jaw. Ah, the eh. The eh is the smile. Eh, right? The e, right? The e sound, the o, o sound. And really, when you're starting out, it's really important to kind of, try looking in a mirror, making sure you're that your lips and all the muscles of your mouth, tongue, throat are involved with this. Oh. But we cut it short, right? Oh, not oh, right? We like the O drawn out. O in English is kind of a drawl. It's strung out, right? But in Spanish is shorter. And then oh, 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 you. Okay. We're going to first take a look at a different thing that is really easy to learn. This is something that people learn very, very quickly. New letter, new letter. This letter is this letter of the alphabet has different names depending on the region you're in. Y, Greek I, is the name of this letter, traditionally Y, and but some countries do call it Y. This this little letter does get two sounds, but keeping it straight is super easy to do, super easy to do. And that is from the position in the word of that letter Y. Okay. So if the position of the letter Y, Y or Y, is the very last letter of a word, it'll always be the I sound. Okay. So if a Y comes at the end of any word at all, it'll always make this sound I. It'll sound exactly like this. E, E, E. Okay. So there are a lot of words in Spanish, oddly, that get these. They often tend to be kind of short words. So here's one you're going to see today, but you're going to see it in its grammar sense, but now we're going to use it in its pronunciation sense. Ay, ay. Repitan, por favor. Ay,
Ay.
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 Right? And we ignore the H, right? Ay, ay.
Ay.
The word for today, hoy,
Hoy.
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 And you'll notice that the sound blends right, runs straight into that I sound. Hoy, hoy.
Hoy.
Today. Hoy. Here's a word you hear a lot because it means very. Muy.
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 People ask you, ¿Cómo estás? How are you? Muy bien. Muy bien. Very well, right? Muy bien. Muy bien. Muy. Muy.
Muy.
Muy.
Bien. Here's another fun example of the E at the end. It's the word for guinea pig. You might wonder, why the heck am I picking that? If you go to Peru, this is something people eat at restaurants. Yes. Serve it on a skewer. Okay, looks a little odd, but yeah, tastes like chicken, so they say. Yeah. Here's the word for guinea pig. Cuy.
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 Right?
Cuy.
Cuy. Cuy. Cuy. Okay, bien. Now, if the Y, the Y, the letter Y, comes any place else in the word, if it's not the last letter, if it's in the middle, if it starts out the word, it'll sound like the English Y. So this is not tough to practice, right? And we're going to reinforce some of our vowel practice as we do these new words. Mayo.
Mayo.
Mayo. Just
Mayo.
like you expect. Mayo, the word for the
Mayo.
month of May. Playa.
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 Right? The word for Mayan, that's a cultural, ethnic group from old Latin America. Maya.
Maya.
Maya. And the word for yesterday, ayer.
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 Bien. Okay. The che used to be a separate letter of the alphabet because the H by itself makes no sound. But when it's in the CH combination, and only when it's in the CH combination, it sounds like ch like English. You know what? You don't need to practice that, or maybe you want to on your own, but these are easy. Chico, like you expect it to sound like it is in English. Chocolate, mucho,
Cho.
rancho,
Rancho.
chiste,
Chiste.
chicle.
Chicle.
Bien. Okay. So here's something that is a little odd, but it's not a deal breaker. Not a deal breaker. La letra D, la letra D, the letter D. Usually it's going to make the D sound like you expect in English. Okay. So when it's like paired up with consonants, things that are not A, E, I, O, U, yeah, or when it starts out a word, it'll have that d sound. Okay, but it's kind of it's a little bit muted. So instead of d, like deep, it'll be d, yeah, with less force. That's all. Okay, not a biggie. So we get donde,
Donde.
Donde.
yeah, drama.
Drama.
Bien, sí. Cuando,
Cuando.
Cuando.
sí. Grande.
grande,
Momento, grande. Grande, sí, grande. Grande.
grande,
Ah, grande, grande, grande. And dentro.
dentro,
Dentro. Inside.
de-
Dentro.
dentro,
Inside.
dentro,
Okay, like inside a box, inside the house. Yeah. Location word. Now, sometimes, however, you may hear this sound with D, and that is because D sometimes gets a little different sound when it's in between two vowels, A, E, I, O, U, when it's in between two vowels, or when it's the very last letter of the word, then it's going to sound like this. The, 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 like a TH. So when you hear people saying these words and you hear what is like a TH, it's probably this letter, right? So this one is going to have a combination of both a hard D in the first one and a soft D at the end because it's the last letter of the word. Verdad.
verdad,
verdad,
Verdad. And it's
verdad,
subtle. The is kind of subtle. It's soft. Okay. A lot of these consonant sounds are similar to English, but softer. So when you're listening, you have to listen kind of hard. Okay. Cada,
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 cada. The word for each or
cada,
every. The word for I can, puedo,
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 do,
puedo.
puedo,
Here.
redo,
And here we got a D at the end, so it's going to be soft. Libertad.
libertad,
libertad,
Libertad.
libertad,
Okay, now the reason this D is not a deal breaker, if you forget, yeah, and you do pronounce this D, which is supposed to be soft, harder, like cada instead of cada, they'll recognize you sound foreign. You have an accent, but they'll know it sounds a little off, but they'll understand you. Okay. So the D getting that, if you forget that TH, it doesn't mean they're going to grossly misunderstand what you're saying, right? If you don't get these vowel sounds in cada right, it could be a deal breaker because it could be a different word. Yeah, cada, cada. But uh, uh, if you kind of forget what that D and make it into more of an English D a little harder, it's not a deal breaker. But no, because when you listen, you will hear this the. And in many, many cases, it is a D. Okay, the H we covered last week. H makes no sound, right? So we ignore the H. It has to be written, but we don't speak it. We are going to take a look, and we talked about we did do our Y, our double L last week. See? Yeah. Okay. But we didn't do our jota. Jota, jota, jota. You're going to see a lot of words with J's. Okay. Jota is the name of this letter of the alphabet. Jota, jota. Yeah, it is the word J, jota. But it will sound like an H, but it comes kind of from here. It's a throaty H. And if you have a hard time with the h, throaty H, and if you only get a h out, again, you'll be understood. You'll have an accent, as we all do, but do try, the more you hear words and speak words with this, try to get that h, yeah, to come up a little bit, right? Some regions have the stronger uh, uh, throaty version, and some are a little softer. It depends on which country you're traveling in. Ojo,
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 ojo. The word for your eye.
ojo,
Ojo.
ojo,
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 Okay. Jamón,
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 jamón. Yeah.
jamón,
jamón,
But look what happens. Oof, we change only one letter in jamón. We can get to the totally different word. Jabón,
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 jabón, jabón.
jabón,
soap. Jabón.
Jabón.
Here's a common word because it means short in height or something low. Yeah. Bajo. Bajo.
Bajo.
Bajo.
Bajo.
Bajo.
Bajo. Okay. We're going to skip around a little bit. You can use some other words at home another time. This thing here on my wrist, or sometimes it's on a wall and it's bigger. Same word for that. Something that tells time. Reloj.
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 That one really is a little tricky because of that
Reloj.
at the end. Reloj.
Reloj.
Okay. Here's a word that's super practical because you'll hear it a lot. We use the word better a lot. See? Mejor.
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 Mejor. We punch the end. Mejor.
Mejor.
¿Cómo estás? How are you? The response may be, mucho mejor. Mucho mejor.
Mucho mejor.
Much better. If you were ill the day before, mucho mejor. Mucho mejor.
Mucho mejor.
Mejor. Okay. We're going to take one more word because you'll probably see it in a bunch of places. The word for woman has a J in it in the middle. Mujer.
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 Mujer. Sí. Bien. Okay. Next one is an easy sound. And people almost never get this wrong. I'll say with one exception, and you'll see the exception. This is legitimately a separate letter of the alphabet because it's got a little squiggly line on the top. That little squiggly line. Some people call it diéresis, sometimes people call it a tilde. It makes it into a separate letter. It used to be in old Latin, a double N. And they used to write the N on top of the first N to save space in parchment with little old monks in the Middle Ages were writing manuscripts. So it became this letter. Enye is the name of the letter. Enye. It sounds like the nya of onion. Yeah, all the time. So we get words like cañón.
Cañón.
Cañón. El Gran Cañón. Grand Canyon. El Gran Cañón. Okay. We get words like mañana.
Mañana.
Mañana. Mañana.
Mañana.
Mañana, sí, the word for tomorrow. Oh, here's a survival word when you have to ask for a bathroom. It can be a survival word. Baño.
Baño.
Baño. See? Bien. The word for size, like if you're asking about a t-shirt size, you're buying a souvenir. Tamaño.
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 We'll jump around a little. I'm just going to do two more. Here's a word you would recognize. On a menu, this could be an important word. Piña.
Piña.
Piña. Pineapple. Piña.
Piña.
Piña. Here's an important word because we use it to talk about age. The word for year. Okay, here's the only one that if you get it wrong, it's a bad thing if you get this three-letter word wrong. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Año.
Año.
Año. Think
Año.
like annual. All right, the English word annual comes from the exact same root in Latin as this word, año. But it's really important to pronounce it as año.
Año.
Año. I'm going to tell you why this is a big one, that if you get it wrong, you're going to get like a weird look on the face of the person you're talking to. This word año is year, and we use it often to talk about age. So if I want to say I am 60 years old, you can't say I am 60. In Spanish, to express that idea, you need a different verb that isn't I am. You need the word have. Have. And the word have is tener. The word I have is tengo. Tengo,
Tengo.
like tango, but with an E instead of an A of tango. Tengo.
Tengo.
Okay.
Tengo.
So I am 60 becomes this phrase. Tengo, here comes the
Tengo.
number, 60
60
años.
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 Tengo 60 años.
Años.
Tengo 60
If
años.
if I mispronounce años and I say instead, tengo 60 años, I am saying I have 60 anuses. Yes. The minute I said that, no 15-year-old kid ever got it wrong again, because this word here means anus. Yick! So if you say tengo 60 años, I have 60 anuses, the person behind you, across from you, their eyes are going to do this, and they're going to be, oh, okay, sure, buddy. Okay, so you don't want to do that. It always is año.
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 Año. Bien.
Año.
Okay. Bien.
Año.
We'll come back to our KKK things another time. We want to, and we did our C's and G's. We're going to start to look at this R thing. R, R, R. I am hoping that you had time to watch this video. Did you have time to watch this video?
Yes.
If you did not have time, do not fret, but do go back. I will insert it in the email again. This is the best video I've ever seen to help people to learn to roll or trill an R. And I am one of those people who was able to do it quickly. Some of you may be able to do it quickly. Some people have great difficulty. So if you think it's hard to trill an R, you are not alone. It is difficult for many people, especially English speakers. But this guy, go back and watch it because he has many good tips. And the tip really is in forcing some air out. So we're going to take a look, but do go back and listen to that again because it will be super helpful. Okay, so here's the thing to know. There is a strong trill, ere, ere, ere.
R.
Yeah, ere is the letter. And R, the strong trill, R, R, used to
R.
be a double R, well, is still a double R. A double R used to be, again, in their alphabet, used to be a separate letter. It is no longer. It is, they make rules for things like this in Spanish. There's like a group of guys who literally sits down and they decide rules. Okay. If R, R is a double R, or if the R is the first letter, if it leads off, it's the first letter of the word, it's going to get the strong trill. Okay. So the little trick he talked about in the video was to do words with an F. Because when you say the sound F in English, it's very natural as an English speaker to say F, and you feel the air coming out of your lips. Yeah, F, right? Right? Fabulous, fatal, flunk, flu, yeah, yeah, f. And getting a little bit of air with a loose tongue that will flap like a flag, that helps you get to the R sound. So we're going to work the softer trill, right? The R, single R trill first. And we're going to start with F words to try to help get that tongue to flap a little bit. It's going to flap right up there behind your teeth and up the top of your palate. It'll bounce, right? Like somebody playing a snare drum. Ere, 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 ere. Okay? So we're going to get practice with some F words like he recommends in the video. Frente.
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 Yeah.
Frente.
Frente is this
Frente.
part of your body. Yeah. Frente. Okay. Frenar.
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 Frena.
Frenar.
Frenar.
If you get air pushing out with the F, it'll help you flap the tongue. Frenar. Frenar.
Frena.
Frenar means to brake,
Frenar.
like on your car. Okay, you see? Here's a word for sentence or phrase. Frase.
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 Here's a word you'll hear a lot because we usually talk about the weather, like it's cold outside. Frio.
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 These all have a single trill. Frio.
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 Here's a word for scrub. Fregar.
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 So
Oh, good.
you emphasize both R's in that?
Perdón?
Do you trill the initial R and then the R at the end of the word?
Okay. The emphasize, actually, it's a really super good question. When you have more than one syllable, yeah, in a word, in Spanish, this one will put more punch or more emphasis on this part of the word at the end. Yeah, on the end. Words that end in R get more punch on the end. Fregar. So
Fregar.
it won't be fregar. Fregar. It'll be fregar.
Fregar.
Yeah. Yeah. See? Fregar.
Pecado.
Okay.
Pecado.
Okay. Just like in English, yeah, we have words like, let me take another F word, frying. And you would never say frying. I am frying. I am frying in this pan. You would say frying, right? English has no rules to determine whether you punch the fry or the ing, but Spanish does have rules for that. It's not important that you really know them now. Just, yeah, you hear fregar, put more punch on the end, fregar. Here's an emotion word that has a single trill. Frustrante.
Frustrante.
Yeah, see.
Frustrante.
Here's another word, and this is fragrante. Fragrante.
Fragrante.
Fragrante.
Fragrante.
See?
Frustrante.
There are a lot of words, and I want you to notice this as you go through both things we do in class and as you go through chapters in this book that I tell you to read. You're going to notice a lot of times there are words in Spanish that when you see them spelled out, oh, it kind of looks a lot like an English word. That means it's what we call a cognate. And a lot of words for beginner Spanish students contain a lot of cognates. It means that somewhere way back in Latin, English took a word out of Latin, which actually came through French into English. And there's a similar Latin word that the Spanish word is based on. So cognates are words that look like a word you already know. They mean either exactly the same or pretty close to the word you know, and you can guess their meanings. Okay, so there are a lot of cognates that will help you to learn some vocabulary quickly. There are other cognates that are what we call false, meaning they sound like an English word, but they don't mean what you think. But a lot of cognates are there because of roots from words having roots in Latin, both in Spanish and in English. Okay, so there we've got some ere, ere, ere. So now we're going to take some things that don't have an F. But this is the single flap. And another trick that a lot of people try to get to people to simulate or imitate the ere sound is that in English, if you say ladder, 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 butter, 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 butterfingers, butter, 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 yeah, butter, it's similar to that sound, butter. You feel your tongue flap against the roof of your mouth, right? So, okay, we have caro,
Caro.
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 That means expensive. Okay. The word pero.
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 Pero
Pero.
means
Pero.
but. Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to help you, but I have no time. Yeah. Pero.
Pero.
We have claro.
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 Some people will use claro instead of responding sí, yes. They'll say claro, and it means of course, which is the same thing as saying yes, right? Claro. Okay. Right? Crudo.
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 Crudo. Crudo. Crudo. Yeah.
Crudo.
The word for raw, something that isn't cooked. And here's a word that's a cognate. It sounds like what you think, and it means what you think. Grupo.
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 Okay. So now we're going to take a few R words. Yeah. And I want you in the first couple of these to hear the difference between a single R and a word that's spelled almost exactly the same, but it has a double R instead of a single R. Of course, when we take that R sound and we emphasize it, we zhuzh it up. It becomes R, R. R, where you really flap and trill strongly, may take you a while. So if it does, don't worry about it. Okay. Spanish speakers know, English speakers and other, other nationalities have difficulty with this. So instead of caro, expensive, it becomes carro.
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 Yeah. Caro,
Carro.
carro.
Claro.
Yeah.
Carro.
Instead of pero, the word for but, it's perro.
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 Yeah.
Perro. And if you
Perro.
emphasize it and overdo it a little bit, it's okay. It's all good. Yeah. We get this word, churro.
Churro.
Yeah, it's that little donut thing, except it's not usually round. It's, yeah. We get the word, this is one word for brown. There are a number of words for brown, oddly enough, in Spanish. But here's one, marron.
Marrón.
Marron.
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 Okay.
Marrón.
I'm going to take two more. And I've got this one split up because it's a number, it is one word, really, right? But I separate it so people look at the separate syllables. The first R is strong, strong trill. The second one, just a little flap. So, res,
Res.
tau,
Tau.
rante.
Rante.
Restaurante.
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 I'm going to take the spaces away. The word for restaurant is restaurante.
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 Bien. Okay. Restaurante. Restaurante. Bien. And one more, because this word is used a lot. It can mean rich, like somebody with a lot of money. It can also be used to say, wow, that is so super yummy. It is delicious. And that is the word rico.
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 Bien.
Rico.
There's our ere. So if you, and you can practice the other words on your own, do check out that video because it will be super helpful to make that feel less intimidating. Bien? Okay. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any kind of question about the pronunciation thing? Oh, no. No? Bien? Okay. Vale. Let's take a look at the next topic. Next topic is we're going to talk a little more about, oh, and let me know because I'm going to bring up a separate whiteboard. Let me know if you can see my whiteboard.
Yep.
Yes, you can see it good
Yeah.
because
Yes.
I had an update. Oh, 2 months ago, this whiteboard didn't work. Okay, now it does. here we go. Here is just the big topic of what we'll be seeing, talking about, explaining, and seeing many examples of today. Okay, our big topic is that where we use this idea of is, or to talk about myself, am, or to talk about more than one person, are in English, different verbs will be used in Spanish. And which verb you choose depends on the context of the whole sentence. So, okay, what are the different verbs that may be used where in English we only say, I am, he is, or you are? Okay, those verbs are ser, which is to be, right? Is am are comes from to be. Be doesn't look anything like is am are, does it? Yeah, be. I be good. No, I am good. Okay, ser, to be. But also the verb estar also means to be. And those are the big two that people get confused a lot. Okay. Out of this group of words that we're going to take a deeper dive into, ser and estar are the two that both legitimately mean to be. And people find that if you come from the English background, extremely confusing. Okay. Even French people find this extremely confusing. There are some languages that do kind of similar things, but not exactly like Spanish. Ser and to be, and estar, to be. However, sometimes you will also hear this word hay, and it means there is. Also, it can be the plural of that idea of there are. I've got to expand my box here. There are, okay? There is, there are, okay? Okay, so we're going to talk a lot about these three. And I is already a conjugated form. So here's the happy thing. This is a happy verb because it is used a lot. And actually, it's super useful for tourists because sometimes you want to ask questions like this. Is there a pharmacy around here? Right? You need medicine, right? Or it uh, is there vegetarian? Is there a vegetarian dish on this menu? Yeah. Uh, so we use there is, there are to talk about things that exist. Well, the happy thing about this verb I um, is that it's only used that one way. I. You don't have to memorize different forms for that word. Yay. It's just I. So if you know how to say I, you're all set, right? I. Okay. Bien. These two, however, get confusing. Yeah. We're going to throw one last little verb in there, but this is of, I would say we're throwing in last because it's at the bottom tier. It's it's not as confusing or maybe well, easier to figure out than the other three above, ser, estar, and I. Tener. Tener really means to have, like have, possess. It's in your hands, it's in your pocket, it's in your purse. To have, the idea of possession. Sometimes this verb tener, have, is used where in English we say am, is, or are. That happens because for some expressions that talk about physical sensations, Spanish uses tener, like tengo 60 años, I have 60 years. That is the way they express. They don't say I am 60. If you said to somebody in Spanish, I am 60 with a different verb that isn't tener, it would sound like The thing that I am is a great big number. I'm a great big number 60. And they would think that sounds weird because they use a different expression. So to say things like, I am cold, I am hot, I am thirsty, I am hungry, they use in Spanish this verb tener because you have thirst, you have hunger, you have coldness, yeah, you have heat, you're boiling. Okay, so but that's kind of bottom tier. Here are the two we're going to spend a lot of time talking about, right? You already know that I only gets one form. Yay. So I is super easy. It's only that form. So our first hurdle is that ser, to be, and estar, to be, will change into many different forms for us to use them. Yeah. And those verbs, those verb forms, are called conjugations. Okay, conjugations is a fancy grammar term. It's not super important that you know what well, yeah, it is. Okay, it is important. Here's what it kind of verbs change into different forms. And in Spanish, there are many more forms a verb will take on than it does in English. Can you see my ser screen here?
Yes.
See, yeah, magnifico. Great. Okay. So we're going to take a look at the first one. First, we're going to make sure we know what the forms of ser are. Okay. And what context then we use them in. That's the harder part, the context part. Ser, this is an identification thing. We use ser when the context of am is are is something more permanent, difficult to change. Yeah. Uh, Ser talks about the essence, the core, the essence of what that thing or that person is. Okay. Ser tends to talk about somewhat more permanent or let's say hard to change characteristics. Yeah. So when you hear people talking about things like what they do for a living, their profession, nationality, where they were born, because it can't change where you were born. Yeah. Uh, Relationships, somebody is my husband, my kid, my friend, my colleague at work, my dentist. Those are relationships, yeah. Uh, and descriptions that don't change easily, like your height, yeah, your hair color, um, uh, even a personality trait that you're a nice person. Yeah, you're not acting nice. You are a nice person most of the time. We use ser for those contexts. Yeah. Okay. And ser is going to change into many different forms depending on who is yeah, the subject, meaning the human being you're talking about when you say am, is, are. That determines what form ser will take. Here are these subjects. Yo, to talk about myself, yo, right? Tú, to talk about the friendly you, tú, right? And that yo is called first person, is called second person, yeah, and singular. It means just one person. And here comes third person. And third person clumps together three different ideas to talk about one person, a male person. Él, he is the pronoun, right? Talk about one person, a female person. Ella, which means she. And oddly, the formal you, usted, well, all these three, they don't talk about the same human being. Él is a different person than ella is a different person than usted. I'm talking directly to you in a formal way, right? But all of those ideas of él, ella, usted, if that is the subject of the sentence, it will take the same kind of verb. That's called third person singular. All it means is that these three things, if you have a sentence you want to say to talk about any of these kind of people, they'll use the same kind of verb. Okay? Consistently. For yo, the plural of yo, the plural of I is we. Nosotros. Nosotros. Nosotros means it's me, but I have people along with me. Yeah. Therefore, we. It's not just myself I'm talking about, but me and my family, my friends, whoever I'm with, right? The idea of we. Vosotros is the plural of tú, but only used in Spain, so we're going to skip that over. That does get different verb forms. And then same thing as él, same thing as ella, same thing as usted, but plural becomes pronouns like these. Ellos, they. That means they, all guys, or a mixed sex group, both guys and girls, or men and women together, becomes ellos. Ellas has to be all ladies. Ellas, they, but all feminine, all female. Yeah. And ustedes, the plural of usted, you guys. Yeah. Ustedes. All right. If the subject is any one of those three, they'll take the same kind of verb. Always. Not just with ser, but with any verb at all. Always. So we group these together into these grids to help you figure out, right? The form of the verb will always depend about who are we talking about when we use that verb. Yeah. Okay. So in Spanish, here are the forms of ser. This is not the context of why we use it. It is the forms of ser. To talk about myself, I have to use soy. Soy, all by itself, even without the yo, is I am. Soy. Soy. I am. You can say yo soy. It is okay to say it that way. Yo soy. Right? But it makes it sound more emphatic. Yeah. The way we would do that in English is something like saying, I am tall. But we do that with the pitch of our voice in English. I'm tall, you shorty person. I'm tall, right? And in Spanish, that idea of, doing the I'm tall is yo soy, right? Most of the time, you're only going to hear the soy by itself without the word yo. Okay. But it only can be used when the subject is talking about myself, right? Okay. The form of ser for tú, to say you are, is eres. Eres. It's got a little single R flap. Eres. Eres. And notice it has an S at the end. Verbs, action words that have an S at the end, mean they're talking to all the time. Okay. Here is what we call third person singular for ser. Es. Es looks a lot like is. We just use a different vowel instead of is. Es. Es. He is. Es. She is. Es. You formal are. Es. Okay. Es, because es matches up with talking about a guy or talking about a gal or talking to you formal, you may hear something paired up with es because it isn't clear always by itself who it refers to. So, whereas people will get rid of the word tú and just use eres, they may include the person they're talking about to use es. Okay. Another thing with ser, here's the form for nosotros. It is somos.
Somos.
Somos. Somos. We are. All verbs that are talking about we as the group doing that action, all get a mos at the end, every single one of them. When you hear a mos idea, it's a verb, and it's a we are doing it verb. Somos, we are. Somos. People will drop the nosotros and just use somos by itself. Okay, we're going to skip this one. It's the plural of tú because only Spain. But here we go. Here's the one for third person plural, right? The plural of él, ella, usted. Ellos son. They are. Ellas son. They, all gals, are. Ustedes son. You guys are. Son. Son. Now, the reason I've got these letters in different colors is so that you start to recognize something. Verbs, action words that end in S, we connect, those are going to be tú forms. Forms that correspond to tú doing the action. Verbs that end in mos are going to be we, nosotros verbs. We are doing the action. Verbs that have a n sound at the end will always be a they, a group of people, more than one person kind of verb. So here we go. Repitan, por favor. Soy,
Soy.
Soy.
eres,
Eres.
es,
Es.
somos,
Somos.
son.
Son.
Just so you know what this one is, but it's only used in Spain, sois.
Soy.
Sois.
Yeah, you won't hear it ever in Latin America, but sois. Okay, and son. Okay, bien. Those are, so our first hurdle is that ser, to be, needs more forms than English uses. Yeah. We have am, is, are. Spanish has soy, eres, es, somos, son. Okay, bien. Those are the forms of ser. Bien. But the context of why we use it, some people use this doctor thing to memorize the rules. Right now, it's going to be hard for you to memorize all the uses. And I'm going to send you this whole file so you don't have to copy a single thing out because you'll have it all on your computer through my email. We're going to show you, if you're the kind of person who loves to memorize rules, go for it, but it's kind of tough to do. We use said, what context, what is the usage that determines I need a form of this verb ser? It is this. If we're using am, is, are to talk about a description like a physical trait, if we're talking about occupation, what somebody does for a living, if we're talking about characteristics, personality traits that people have most of the time, like they're a kind person, they're they're a gentle person, they're a mean person. That's just their personality trait. When we tell time, we use this verb ser, right? It is 2:00. Yeah, it is 8:00. We use ser for telling time. Origin, meaning where somebody is from, right? And relationships, who people are in a family or work structure, for example, relationships between people. Yeah. So that doctor idea helps people who like to memorize the rules. But we're going to see lots of examples because that helps more than memorizing a lot of rules for now. Let's see if we can match up. These are movable. We're going to see if we can match up the forms with the person. If the person, which form of ser on the right, here are all the forms of ser. Soy, eres, es, somos, son. Which form of ser fits the person it's talking about? So if I'm talking about my kid, my son, which one of these verbs on the right will I use to match up and use with mi hijo? I'm talking about one person and it's not me.
Es.
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 Which one of these? Soy, eres, es, somos, son.
Es.
Es.
Es. Yeah. Es. 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 Mi hijo es. Mi hijo es. We're just seeing if you can match up the right verb form with the person is talking about. Yeah. Mi hijo es. So a longer example, because most people don't just say my son is. Mi hijo es alto. My son is
Tall.
tall. Mi
Oh,
hijo es alto. ¿Sí? Mi hijo es moreno. He's brunette. Mi hijo es moreno. ¿Sí? Mi hijo es José. My son is Joe. Oh, I tell what his name is. Mi hijo es José. Okay, es. How about if I'm talking about myself? Yo
Soy.
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 And a nice little way to remember that is yo starts with Y and soy ends with Y. Yay! Match them up. Soy. See? Soy Marilyn. See? Soy. Soy maestra. I am a teacher, right? Okay. Mi hijo y yo, my son and I. If I put I into the group, it means
We.
I'm talking with the
We.
idea of we.
We.
Mi hijo y yo. Which verb fits with mi hijo y yo?
Somos.
Somos. Anytime you're talking about somebody and I, that automatically means it's a we idea. Yeah. It's the same thing as saying we. Okay. Mi hijo y yo is just more specific than nosotros because I'm telling who's in the group with myself. Yeah. Mi hijo y yo takes the same kind of verb as nosotros. Somos. Mi hijo y yo somos. Mi hijo y yo somos. Mi hijo y yo somos atletas.
Athletes.
Sí. Mi hijo y yo somos estadounidenses. We
American.
are US citizens. Somos estadounidenses. Okay. Okay. How about if I want to say, hey, you guys are? Which verb matches up?
Son.
Son.
Son. The N at the end always is a more than one person in the group. Ustedes son, ¿sí? Ustedes son estudiantes. You guys are students. Ustedes son estudiantes. ¿Sí? Bien. Alicia. I'm talking about one person. Alicia
S.
es, right? To talk about one person, and I'm not in the group, we need to make it a singular verb. Es. Alicia es. Alicia es una muchacha. She is a girl. Alicia es mi amiga. Alicia is my friend. Alicia es contadora. She's an accountant, right? I could say Alicia es canadiense. She is Canadian. If I want to talk about where she's from, something like that. Okay. If I have a group of a couple of people, Ricardo y Laura, Ricardo y Laura. Well, it's easier now because I only have two things to choose from.
Son.
Son.
Son. Son. They are. Yeah. Ricardo y Laura son. Ricardo y Laura son colegas. They are colleagues. ¿Sí? Ricardo y Laura son amigos. They are friends. Ricardo y Laura son estudiantes. Right? Okay. So all those things are either identifiers or telling what they do, what their relationship to each other is, right? So the only thing I can match up with tú to say is,
Eres.
yeah, that's the only one we got left. Tú eres. And most people will drop the word tú because the only thing it can possibly match up with is eres. So they say eres alone. Eres. ¿Sí?
Eres.
Eres. Eres. Okay. Bien. Great. That is how they match up. Okay. A ver. Let's take a look at this other verb, which is confusing for English speakers because it also means to be. It is estar. And when you look at this verb estar, you almost see buried inside of estar, we have an English word state. And that's kind of a key. If you keep in mind that idea of state, like somebody is in a certain state, that means they're kind of in this vibe, but it might change. Yeah, that's kind of the idea of estar. It is what we call an irregular verb, just like ser was an irregular verb. Irregular means it does not follow a strict standard pattern. And when you see verbs later in Spanish beyond these lessons, they will follow often, not all the time, but often some pretty strict patterns that are easy to figure out. But estar is not regular. It is what we call irregular. Okay. Just like am is are doesn't look anything like be, to be. Yeah. These have funny forms. Here's a form that matches up with yo. Estoy.
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 Estoy. I
Estoy.
am. They'll drop the yo. You can match it up in your brain, but they'll drop the word yo. Estoy.
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 When somebody asks, ¿Cómo estás? How are you? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Estoy bien. Estoy bien. I am well. If I am well now, I might not feel well an hour from now, right? How I feel, whether it's attitude or health, is a changeable state. Changeable states, yeah. Our health or our emotions are changeable states, and that's why we use estar to inquire, how are you, to people, right? That's why the question for how are you is not ¿Cómo eres? How are you? But ¿Cómo estás? How are you? ¿Cómo estás? Estás. And estás punches the boom at the end, that little accent mark on the at the end in front of the S. That is, we have to put that little accent mark means we have to punch that sound more. So not estás, but estás.
Estás.
Estás. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás?
Estás.
¿Cómo está?
How are you? Okay. So estás can only, with an S at the end, it means it's a tu verb and it only matches up with tu. Okay. Here's the one for él or ella or usted, meaning any one human being, and I'm not in the group. Yeah. Está.
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 It's the same thing as estás, but we take away that extra S off the end. Está.
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 Está. And we have to punch the A at the end harder. Está.
Está.
Está. ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está Carlos? How is Carlos? ¿Cómo está tu esposo? How is your husband? ¿Cómo está tu esposa? How is your wife? Okay. ¿Cómo está? How are they? All right. The form of estar that matches up with nosotros is amos at the end. It's got amos at the end. It means it's a we verb. Estamos.
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 Estamos. We are. It's talking about myself and other people are with me. Estamos, right? Estáis is the you guys plural friendly in Spain, but we're going to skip over that one. We will not emphasize this because Latin Americans don't. And all I do with the verb está to make it more than one is I slap an N on the end. Están.
Están.
Están. Están. Están. And that accent mark on the means I punch that syllable harder. That's all that means, okay? Están. Están.
Están.
So, ellos están, they are. Ellas, all gals, están, they are. Ustedes están. How are you guys? So, when I greet you at the beginning of class, I don't say, unless there's only one person on, then it'll be ¿Cómo estás? But usually I look at more than one of you. So I say, ¿Cómo están ustedes? ¿Cómo están ustedes? Yeah.
Ustedes.
If I am speaking face to face with people and I'm looking right at them, they'll even drop the ustedes and they may only ask, ¿Cómo están? ¿Cómo están? Drop the ustedes because from están, if I'm looking right at you, hey, I'm talking to you. Eye contact, right? ¿Cómo están? ¿Cómo están ustedes? Bien. So, when do I use these, ser, versus when I use these? Well, this is for talking about where you are, location, or how you feel. And how you feel could be health. How you feel could be emotions. Either way. Okay. Bien. Let's see if you can match up the forms of estar. The forms of estar. Bien. With the people they talk about. We have to use these on the right. Estoy, estás, está, estamos, están. If we're talking about mi padre, which verb form matches up with mi padre? My dad.
Está.
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 I might use it for location. Mi padre está en Los Angeles. My dad's in Los Angeles. Yeah. Where he physically is right now, right? I might use it for a state, like mi padre está contento. He's happy. Está contento. Yeah. Bien. Okay. Tú. Which form of these is going to match up with tú?
Estás.
Estás.
Estás, an S at the end. An S at the end for a verb, an S at the end means a tú verb. Tú estás. ¿Cómo estás? How are you? ¿Estás bien? Are you well? ¿Estás bien? Okay. ¿Estás en el supermercado? Somebody calls you on the phone. ¿Estás en el supermercado? Are you at the supermarket? Yeah. ¿Estás en casa? Are you at home? ¿Estás en casa? Okay. Mis amigos, if I'm talking about a bunch of people, which form of estar will match up?
Están.
Están.
Está.
And
Están.
mis amigos, I am not in the group. It just says the friends belong to me.
Están.
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 Yeah. Because I heard estamos, but mis amigos does not mean I'm with them, right? It only means I'm with them if I have mis amigos y yo and I. Y yo, right? But just mis amigos están. Mis amigos están en la oficina. My friends are at the office. Mis amigos están en el parque. My friends are at the park. Mis amigos están están enfermos. They are, oh, mis amigos están enfermos. My friends are sick. It's their health, their state of health. Están enfermos, enfermos. They are sick. Okay. Bien. Mi madre y yo. And the key here is the y yo puts me in the group.
Estamos.
Estamos. Estamos. Aquí. Mi madre y yo estamos. Mi madre y yo estamos. Mi madre y yo estamos en la tienda. My mom and I are at the store. Mi madre y yo estamos. Mi madre y yo estamos en Arizona. My mom and I are in Arizona, where we physically are. Okay. Bien. Okay. Ustedes, you guys, more than one, you.
Están.
Están.
Están. It needs a plural verb, an N at the end kind of verb. Ustedes están. ¿Cómo están ustedes? Ustedes están en Zoom. You guys are on Zoom. Ustedes están en Zoom. Bien. Okay. How about usted? Just one you.
Está.
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 Está. Now we need está. Right? It's still singular, talking about one person. Okay. Está. And yo. We only have one left.
Estoy.
Estoy. And we'll drop the yo most of the time. Estoy. Estoy is enough by itself. See? Bien? Okay. So there's the matchup with forms of estar. Here's the matchup with forms of ser. Okay. Vale. Ejemplos. Examples. Oh, sorry. Sorry. One more step. One more step. Estar is used to talk about location, 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 where things are, where objects are, where people are, where things are. Yeah. And it's used to talk about conditions that may change easily, like your health, like your emotions. So there's a silly little rhyme that helps people remember when to use estar versus when to use ser. We use estar for how you feel or where you are. Always use a verb estar. It's a silly little rhyme, but it helps you remember. For how you feel or where you are, always use the verb estar. All right. So here are some examples. ¿Cómo estás? Ah, estoy bien. Inquiring about your health. Yeah. ¿Estás nervioso? Are you? There's a cognate.
Nervous.
Are you nervous? No, no estoy nerviosa. It's talk about myself. It would have to be nerviosa. No estoy nerviosa. Bien. ¿Están ustedes en casa? Are you guys home? ¿Están ustedes en casa? En casa means at home, literally in your own house. Yeah. En la casa is in the house. It could be somebody else's house, but en casa means your home. En casa, en casa. Bien? Okay? Bien?
Yeah.
So, if you feel like, holy cow, that's a lot, congratulations, you're human. Everybody feels like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. But let's see some examples of how these get used. Am is our, we use for all kinds of ideas in English, but some ideas, the contextual use of Spanish will use ser, and other contextual uses will use estar. We're going to see some examples. If I talk about this picture, okay, en contexto, in context. Obviously, this woman here on the right is not the doctor. She doesn't have the little lab coat on, doesn't have the stethoscope. Yeah. So if I say who she is, I identify her. Ella es paciente. Es paciente. She's a patient, right? I may
Yes.
or may not use the word ella with that because I'm seeing a picture and it's obvious. Yeah. Es paciente. Ella es paciente. She's a patient. That's her relationship with the doctor, right? But I might say, la paciente está enferma. The patient is
Sí.
sick. Yeah. We have the English word infirmary. Yeah. Infirmary comes from the same thing as enferma. Enferma. Ill, sick, unwell. Okay. I might be talking about her location. Está en la oficina. She's in the office. Está en la oficina. That is a location use, right? Location, health, estar. Who she is in this two-person relationship es paciente. She's the patient. See? I'm telling who she is. Okay? La mujer a la derecha, the woman on the right. See? Ella es doctora. There are two words for doctor, by the way. You may hear either one. Ella es doctora.
Es doctor.
Ella es médica.
Es médico.
Es médico.
Her profession. Ella es doctora. Ella es médica. But how she feels, la médica está contenta. Happy. We have the word content. Means you're happy. See? Está contenta. I might just say she as well. Está bien. Está bien.
Está bien.
Okay. And you'll get all these context uses here. I could say about all these men, oh, they are listed in history books. That's a figurative location, yeah. Ellos están en los libros de historia. They are in the history books. I know it's a figurative location. Yeah. Oh, I know. Really, some of these people are no longer alive, but let's just put that aside for now. Están en la Casa Blanca. Where are those guys when they work, where they live? Yeah. A location. Están en la Casa Blanca. They're in the White
House.
House. En la Casa Blanca. They're in the House White. Blanca. White. They don't say White House. They say House White. Están en la Casa Blanca. They're in the White House. Okay. Bien. Location. But, I might say, ellos son presidentes. They are presidents. That's a different context. It's not location. Yeah. It's talking about what their job was. Yeah. Son presidentes. You cannot say están presidentes. That would, if you said están presidentes, that would somebody be confused. What did that person say to me? Son presidentes. Who they are, yeah, what their job is ser. Where they do that job is location. See? Bien? Here we go. Oh, go. Before my hair went gray. Here we go. Soy maestra. I'm a teacher. Soy maestra. Soy maestra. And I put the yo in there so you can associate it, right? Usually it'll just be soy maestra. Soy maestra. Bien? Soy maestra. Soy maestra. Bien. But where I live, where I am right now, is estoy en Arizona. Estoy en Arizona. See? Okay. I could also say, that I am from a different place. I'm not there right now. I'm not located there, but originally I'm from someplace else. Soy de Michigan. Where I'm from, my origin, where I was born, that is not changeable. Where I am right now is location, but where I started out, where I was born, is something else. That is ser. Soy de Michigan. See? Bien? Okay.
Okay.
So you get an idea of context here. And if we're talking about context, I'm going to move my box over a little bit. Mis estudiantes, if I'm talking about more than one student, mis estudiantes y yo, I'm putting myself in with my students, somos amigos. My students and I are friends. Mis estudiantes y yo, I add myself to a group, somos amigos. Somos amigos. Our relationship, somos amigos. See? But if I talk about location, I switch to estar. Estamos en la clase de Zoom. We're in a Zoom class. Estamos en la clase de Zoom. That's talking about a location. See? Bien? Vale. More examples. Ed Sheeran. He's a singer, if you don't know. It's hard to get cultural things that everybody knows who these people are. Yeah. Ed Sheeran, he is a singer. You can tell because he's got a guitar slung over his back, right? Ed Sheeran es pelirrojo. His hair color. He's a redhead. Ed Sheeran es pelirrojo. It's a characteristic he can't change. Es pelirrojo. Es inglés. He's English. Es inglés. His nationality. where he's from. Es inglés. But él está en un concierto. Maybe his location is he's at a concert. Concert is a location. It's a place. It's not where he was born. It's where he is now. Está en un concierto. Yeah. A little clue is this word en means in or on. Yeah. En is a signal. Ooh, he's in a place. Location. Está en un concierto. Está en Los Ángeles. He's in Los Angeles. That's a location. But now I'm talking about how he feels after he's given a 3-hour concert. Está cansado. He's tired. Está cansado.
And
He's
Marilyn,
tired.
you only have to use L one time at the beginning, at the first sentence, not for all the other ones.
Excelente. Yeah. Often you'll hear an el, but hey, if I'm continuing to say other things about that same person, they'll drop the el. Oh, you already know. I don't need to say it again. Yeah. See, we can't do that in English. Yeah. We have to use the he. If you just say, is good, is tired, people are like, who is? You have to give the who in English all the time. In Spanish, yeah, you don't necessarily. If it is understood from the first part of the conversation, they'll drop the word he, él. They'll drop it. They just will because they do that all the time. Okay? Yeah. So, Ed Sheeran. Ah, well, if you're an older person, you know who these people are. The Beatles, right? Yeah. Even if you're not old, you may have. Even my kids know who they are. Even my kids. Uh, oh, they're in a formal photo. I know. It's the kind of location. Kind of, yeah. Kind of like saying you're in Zoom. Están en una foto formal. They're in a formal picture. Yeah. Uh, kind of location. Yeah. Bien. Uh, but if I want to talk about a different kind of context, uy, a ver. I changed my screen, so I'm having a hard time moving this. Come on, move box. Here we go. If I talk about where they are from, what country they are from, I need not estar, but ser. Los Beatles son de Inglaterra. Los Beatles son de Inglaterra. De means of or from. De means of or from. Son de Inglaterra. Inglaterra es England. ¿Sí? Bien. Origin, son. Oh, they're inside a picture, kind of a location. I know. Estar. Bien, ¿sí? Vale. Okay. Let's talk about different musical people. There we go. I want to talk about what nationality. They are from the US. They're not English, they're from the US. And the word for from the US is not American. Americano is a no-no because Americano talks about North and South America in Spanish. Okay, so if I want to talk about Beyonce and Jay-Z, it's Beyonce y Jay-Z son estadounidenses. Son, they are
Son.
where they're from. Son estadounidenses.
Estadounidenses.
That is a hard word. To learn to pronounce it, you sometimes have to take it apart into two pieces. Estado
Estado.
unidenses.
Unidenses.
If somebody asks you, ¿de dónde eres? ¿De dónde es usted? Where are you from? don't ever respond, soy americano, because they consider that ever so slightly kind of offensive, because their response is, I'm American too. North and South America, in Spanish language, they consider Americas, both of them. So instead of saying you're American, this is the correct response. Estadounidenses. Estadounidenses.
Estadounidenses.
This tells it you're from United States country. Yeah? See? This says U.S. citizen. That's what it means. Okay? But it's all one word, so it's kind of hard for us to pronounce. Another way you can say, which is easier to pronounce, is norteamericanos. Norteamericanos. That's a little easier. Yeah. Norteamericanos, North Americans. I know. I guess I could technically be Canadian too, but Norteamericanos. Okay? Norteamericanos. There you go. But if I want to talk about where they are right now, like where they're located, where they generally live, ellos están en Los Ángeles. Ellos están en Los Ángeles.
Eh,
Ellos.
ellos
Ellos
están
están
en
en
Los
Los Ángeles. ¿Sí?
Ángeles.
In
Bien.
Los Angeles.
Okay. So you get the idea. I'm going to give you one more screen to look at later on. See? Bien? And we're going to cover this tener thing a little bit more next week. A little bit more next week, okay? But do kind of check out the back slides, and we'll talk about this tener thing a little bit more next week. Okay, bien. Let's take a look at, uy, momentito, I need to find the correct screen here. Let's review some of the, we're going to fold in I. There are to this as well. And we'll only spend a couple minutes on this, but we'll come back to it again next week. We're going to review some of our familia. You had a segment in the book I wanted you to read about la familia, family members. And we're going to combine es and son. We're going to throw in the idea of I also. I is only used to say that something exists. Yeah. If you did not watch the video on I with the refrigerator, the stuff in the refrigerator, go and look at that again. I'll put it again in the email link. But I just talks about stuff is out there. It exists. Yeah. We're going to talk about, see a few examples, how to talk about family members. And we're going to throw in one new word, which asks how many, cuántos or cuántas, how many. Okay. Bien. So, por ejemplo, here are examples. And I'm going to mix up I and son and all of that. ¿Cuántas personas hay? How many people are there? If I'm counting them up, yeah, I'll use this verb hay. ¿Cuántas personas hay en la familia Obama? Hay 4 personas en la familia. There are
4 people.
4 people in the family. See? I could also look at this picture and say, hay 2 hijas. There are 2 daughters in that family. Hay 2 hijas.
Ay, Dios mío.
There are 2 daughters. Okay. Let's look at a different family. ¿Cuántas personas hay en la familia Bush? How many people are in the Bush family? Uh-oh, we've got a grandkid thrown in. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Hay 7 personas. Hay 7 personas. There are 7 people. Hay 7 personas en la familia Bush. Hay 7 personas en la familia Bush. Okay. ¿Quiénes son? Who are they? El abuelo, grandpa. La abuela,
La abuela.
grandma. Nieto, oh, we only have little girls, so instead of el nieto, grandson, it'll be la nieta.
La
See?
nieta.
Le nietas.
So I could say, en la familia Bush hay dos hijas. There are two daughters. See? Un cuñado, a son-in-law. I think actually there are more now, but yeah. Un cuñado, a son-in-law. Y hay dos nietas. Hay dos nietas. There are two granddaughters. See? Bien?
Mm.
Okay. So we'll leave you with that. We'll come back to this. We'll use some more examples next week. I'll send you this whole file so you can kind of take a look at the whole thing. But we can also throw in this verb I to say that something exists. See? Bien? Okay, so we're drawing up to the end of our time here. Son las 11. Oh, son las 11. It is 11 hours. Son las 11. It's 11. I'm going to ask you to go one little step. You're going to skip some pages. I'm going to ask you to take a look at pages in your book that are going to talk about numbers, because we'll review these ideas we did this week, today. And we're also going to add in the idea of I, and we're going to add in I with some numbers, some easy numbers. So I'm going to have you read a little bit about numbers, and we're going to incorporate it with these verbs of ser, estar, and I next week. And you're going to get an extra video to watch about how we use I with numbers, which will be helpful. And I think that is going to be enough. Yeah, continue to just review your vocabulary, review your chapters in the first part of the book there. Y es todo. That's it. ¿Está bien? We good?
Good.
Mm.
Bien.
Muy bien.
¿Está bien? Magnífico. Excelente. Ustedes son excelentes. You guys are excellent.
Bueno,
Ustedes son excelentes. Muchas gracias, muchas gracias. Many thanks. Muchas gracias. And that'll be enough for today because you're going to have a lot of numbers work that we'll go over next week, and we'll have examples for you to practice with numbers. ¿Sí? Bien?
Bien.
bien.
Magnífico. Gracias. We'll stop our
Gracias.
recording for there so that it stops recording. Vamos.